We got a busy show, as I said. We'll be joined by our friend Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, joins us every Friday. Talk about the top stories of the week. Today will be no different in that regard, but also some Super Bowl talk sprinkled in as well. It's our Super Bowl extravaganza show. We'll also be joined by our friend Scott Seidenberg from VSIN. He's a host over there, also with Better Day, Bettor Day. If you're looking for great gambling content, sports betting content, he provides it. Go and check that out. He will join us with some of his favorite bets for the Super Bowl on Friday. Sam Yarnell is here. He'll have his favorite picks for the game on Sunday, so you won't want to miss that as well. I'll have a couple of picks I'll throw out, but I'll probably give more over the weekend. But we start things out, as we always do on this Friday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story today has to be NFL honors last night, at least in part, with what took place. The Hall of Fame announced. We find out the guys that make it into the Hall as a result of the vote from the writers, and we all went into this whole thing that took place last week with no Bill Belichick, and now this week no Robert Kraft getting in to the Hall of Fame. And we found out that it was Roger Craig from the senior list that wound up getting in. And at initial first blush, I said, well, they chose Roger Craig over Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft. But that isn't really what happened. What happened was you could vote for up to 3 guys. You have to vote for 3 guys on that senior list. And, Elsie Greenwood was on there, Kraft, Belichick, Roger Craig. And ultimately, you still didn't have enough votes. Even though you could vote for 3 guys, you have to vote for 3 guys, you still had a situation where Drew Brees gets in, Larry Fitzgerald gets in, Roger Craig gets in, Adam Vinatieri gets in, and all these guys get in, but ultimately you still had Belichick and Kraft sitting on the sidelines for this round. And that goes to tell you there was clearly a personal agenda here. This wasn't about wanting Roger Craig to be able to get his day, and there's no excuse. There's just no excuse ultimately for why Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft didn't get into the Hall of Fame on their first go-around, other than the voters wanting to send a message. Some of them wanting to send a message. At least 11 of them wanting to send a message. And there's been little transparency in this process as far as the voters are concerned. Very few have come out and said they didn't vote for Kraft or Belichick, at least so far. And the process is going to have to change. That is part 1 of what I want to talk about in the big story. Part 2 kind of ties into part 1, though, and that is Matthew Stafford winning the MVP, which he deserved to win the MVP. What is shocking to me is just how close this vote was. I think it was 24 votes for Matthew Stafford, 23 or 21 for Drake May, 23 for Drake May, and then a couple for Josh Allen, 1 for Justin Herbert. And you sit there and you scratch your head and say, how was it this close? When you compare the resumes, the competition they played against, Stafford playing in arguably the best division in football this year, Drake May playing in obviously the maybe one of the worst divisions in football this year, with the Jets and Dolphins both residing in the AFC East. How is it that Matthew Stafford won in a squeaker? And again, it goes to show the human element, the same thing that feeds into the conversation about who made it into the Hall of Fame and why. That same conversation could be had when it comes to the writers and the people voting for MVP. Because there is not a rationalization that you could come up with, other than maybe pure stats without context, that gives you the case for Drake May over Matthew Stafford. In fact, I could argue Drake May wasn't even the most valuable quarterback in his own division when he plays in a division with Josh Allen. It makes no sense. It defies logic. And it's why I think a lot of these awards, and this is something we're seeing in all sports, have less and less relevance, have less and less of a feel for what we're actually watching. It's almost a sports gaslighting in some ways to sit there and if Drake May had won this MVP, you could have made the argument he would have been the least deserving MVP in the history of the NFL. I mean that. And it's not a shot on him. It's about who you're playing against, what the statistics belie against who you're playing against, and your level of competition. He may have been, if he had won this thing, the most undeserving MVP. We almost had a tie for the MVP this year, in a year where it shouldn't have been that difficult to figure out and discern that Matthew Stafford was the best quarterback, or the best player, most valuable player in the NFL. All right, point number 3. I feel for the folks at ESPN yesterday. Did you watch? Were you tuned in for 2 hours of big trade deadline talk, and we're going to be here to break the news and break deals as they happen? And then it was like Al Capone's vault. It was like Geraldo opening up Al Capone's vault and a couple of stray papers laying around. There was no big news on NBA trade deadline Thursday, and the reason is it all happened on Tuesday and Wednesday. Remarkable. Everybody got their deals in on Tuesday and Wednesday, and ESPN couldn't have foreseen that situation playing out. They planned their stuff days in advance and decide we're going to do a big show on Tuesday, and the only 2 chips that could potentially fall on Thursday were Giannis or Ja Morant, or maybe somebody made a wild trade for Zion Williamson, and none of it happened. You got Zubats moving from the Clippers to the Pacers. Yeah, you got Jose Alvarado, going to the Knicks. There wasn't anything otherwise for them to do other than recap what had already happened on Tuesday and Wednesday. Best laid plans of mice and men. It's going to be a very interesting offseason in the NBA, though, because there are still a lot of decisions to be made when it comes to the Golden State Warriors situation, when it comes to Giannis, obviously, in Milwaukee, and how they figure out a way to part ways with him. What kind of offers will they get in the offseason versus what they got prior to the trade deadline? What does happen with Ja Morant, because they are clearly in a tear-down mode in Memphis with the Grizzlies. They're going to have to make decisions as to how Ja Morant does or doesn't fit into that. The offseason's going to have a lot of storylines around player movement in the NBA. We've got more NFL to talk about. Our Super Bowl extravaganza. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. Our Super Bowl extravaganza, this Friday edition of the program, previewing the big game. Robert Littal joins us from the Bay Area, where he is on site. I don't think he's going to the game, but I think he was doing the media row thing that everybody else was doing. Everybody but us. Not next year, Sam Yarnell. We will be there, come hell or high water. Yes, we will be there. No crossfinger. What? I don't care if I got. Like I said, we could be doing the show under a bridge on Skid Row. We're going to We're doing shows from the Super Bowl. We'll do them on Skid Row with some vagrant, and it'll be wonderful. Let's talk about NFL honors and the Hall of Fame last night. I was shocked, and I said this in the big story today briefly. I was shocked at how close the voting was for MVP. I did not think it was going to be that close. I mean, I thought there'd be a modicum of respect for what Drake May had done this year, getting the Patriots to the Super Bowl, great regular season. That vote should not have been that close, Sam. I don't get it. I don't get it.
No chance. And you know what? I woke up this morning and I went to bed last night seeing the voting results. And as I do so many times, Jason Page, throughout the football season, I said, wow, there's a higher power up there. There are football gods out there. Thank goodness they put us on the planet at the same time as Josh Allen. Because if Josh Allen didn't get those 2 first-place votes for MVP, Drake May would have won it. He would have. Wow. It didn't matter about the Justin Herbert vote. If Drake May would have gotten the 2 votes that Josh Allen got for MVP, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So yes, Jason, I agree with you. Josh Allen saved football. No, I was shocked at how close this was. I was shocked to see that Drake May came within a vote of having the first tie in however many dozens of years since the last time that we had to split this award down the middle. I was shocked to see Justin Herbert get a single first place MVP vote. It was a crazy breakdown of how that award came out.
Yeah, it was. Mike Vrabel wins Coach of the Year. So the Patriots won't get shut out in this postseason when it comes to the Hall of Fame, the Coach of the Year honors, the MVP, the Super Bowl, which they're going to lose. You're going to lose. They won't get shut out. At least they won something. Congratulations to Mike Vrabel. And honestly, was there a more deserving person than Mike Vrabel this year? Is there somebody? Ben Johnson, maybe? Who else? Maybe
Kyle
Ben Johnson?
Shanahan.
Yeah. We have sung the
who
praises
won
of Kyle
games with
Shanahan
Mac
all year.
Jones,
That's correct.
Who dealt
you
with
love
the
Mac
team.
Jones. Come on.
I do. But still, Kyle Shanahan won games this season with Mac Jones not having a thought in the world during the preseason that Mac Jones was going to end up his quarterback, Jason. Yeah. I don't think that Mike Vrabel deserved this award. I think that this award is a product, just like most of Drake May's MVP votes were, of their incredibly easy schedule during the regular season. I think that's a reason that Josh McDaniels unrightfully was awarded Assistant Coach of the Year. I have to go back and look. This is research that I meant to do before the show, but quite frankly didn't have time with how many things we've got going on this week. I want to go back and look at how many times the Coach of the Year and Assistant Coach of the Year were awarded to the same staff. Feel like that can't happen very often, and definitely shouldn't have happened this year of all years of all of these talented coaches, let alone assistant coaches like Brian Flores and Vance Joseph. But this is something we can get into later in the show, Jason, and I want to get into with Robert. Yeah, listen, I'm going to stick on the Kyle Shanahan thing. I think he should have been the Coach of the Year this year. 4
wins to 14 wins for New England, I think, has a lot to do with why Vrabel winds up winning Coach of the Year. Maybe they need another award like Turnaround of the Year or something like that.
I don't know. Congratulations, you're that much better than Gerard Mayo of the Year.
Yeah. What's funny is all those 10 coaches got hired, all white, none of them named Josh McDaniel. Just saying. Tells you a little bit about what the coaching world thinks of him at this point. The Hall of Fame announcement coming down last night. Pro Football Hall of Fame. Larry Fitzgerald gets in. Luke Kuechly gets in. Adam Vinatieri gets in. Drew Brees gets in. The interesting one is Roger Craig. And I have been saying for at least a week since this whole Bill Belichick thing came down that I felt like it was Roger Craig that was going to get in based on, some of what I had been, people I had talked to and reading into why Belichick and Kraft didn't get in. But I texted our friend Jason Cole last night and I said, was it as simple as Roger Craig got in, so that's why Belichick and Kraft didn't get in? And he said no. He basically pointed out to me that, you could vote for up to 3 people on that senior ballot. So if you got 3 people, how is one of them not Belichick or Kraft? It still doesn't add up to me, Sam. The math is still not mathing.
I understand. And I don't know if it ever will, Jason Page. I think it may come down to we'll just never know. And they may never. It's one of those institutions, right, where they may not have to enact change if they go through the right steps of righting their wrongs over the course of the next 365 days. That said, right, this ballot, or I shouldn't say ballot, this list of inductees comes out, and I'm going through it. Does a single one of the list of names that you read not deserve to be a first ballot Pro Football Hall of Famer? I mean, it would be ludicrous to say that, Larry Fitzgerald or Drew Brees obviously don't deserve to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame on their first ballot. That's insane. Then you go further down the list. Okay, well, Luke Kuechly defined a generation of middle linebackers. Those who know football understand the gravity with which Luke Kuechly played week in, week out for the Carolina Panthers en route to multiple Super Bowl appearances. There's no chance that he should have not been a first ballot Hall of Famer. And Adam Vinatieri has more historic kicks than just about anybody in this league's history. He's got to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, Jason.
So Luke Kuechly is the one that I'm a little kind of curious about. And I get it. Ball knowers know Luke Kuechly was a great player. But that one was the one that kind of I did my dog's puggle head tilt where I was just like, really? Luke Kuechly, Hall of Famer, first ballot. Like, I don't know.
I think a lot of what has to do, and honestly, I think a lot of what has to do with letting Luke Kuechly into the Hall of Fame is the era in which he was defined. Luke Kuechly is a career defined by concussions. The embodiment of a player who was incredibly talented and had that stripped of him because of head injuries. I think that may have something to do with why he got in.
It just seems bonkers that we're talking about all those guys as Hall of Famers and you can't put Bill Belichick in on the first ballot. That's what, like, all right, fine. And ball knowers know Bill Belichick's a Hall of Famer. He should have been 100%. On the first ballot. He'll probably get in next year, and we'll see him then. All right, we're coming back. Lots more sports wrap. Robert Little's next. All right, we keep things moving on this Friday edition of the show, our big game extravaganza. Super Bowl 60 on Sunday. Look who's there. He's grandfathered in, he was just explaining to us off the air. Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, hangs out with us every Friday on the program. I invited Sam to hang out with us as well. He could be one of the cool kids today. So give me the vibe around the Bay Area there. I know you got in, yesterday? Mm-hmm. I know you're going to be there for the big game on Sunday. Give me a sense for the vibe you're feeling around this thing.
It's so funny because, we've been to the Bay Area several times.
Lived there.
Yeah. I covered that, Warriors, dynasty. So I was out here pretty often. It looks like some of the NFL media, for whatever reason, thought it was a war zone or something going on out here, and they're realizing that San Francisco's not a bad place. It's good weather out here. You can find food pretty much on any corner. I think, earlier in the week, like most Super Bowl weeks, maybe it was a little dry. I think, because of it drags on for so long now. That the momentum picks up as the days, go along, So I saw a lot of people out yesterday. I think people are getting excited now about the game. I will say the game kind of feels a little secondary to Bad Bunny and some other things that are going on. I haven't seen as much talk about the game and I don't know if that's just a product of the Super Bowl week now, but there's been a lot of talk about a lot of other different things. So I'm hoping as we get into, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we get some focus on some X's and some O's on what's actually going to happen, on Sunday.
All right. Are you like everybody else that thinks that, Seattle's going to win this thing? Because I see it being a 10-point game. I will continue to say I think 4.5 is just incredibly
it's only 4.5.
That's it.
I can find me a sports book guy.
I know. See, so I guess you agree with me then.
Yeah, I think just from a logic standpoint, if you look at who the Patriots have played pretty much all year to get to where they're at, and then you see kind of what Seattle's has had to deal with, they would seem the more battle tested. One could say the gauntlet that they went through to get to the Super Bowl would all have been favored to beat, the Patriots. Now, with that said, and this is the difference between, basketball, like the NBA or baseball, it's not 4 out of 7. It only takes one bad Sam Darnold game, a couple of turnovers. And we know Mike Vrabel's a coach that likes to take advantage of situations. I do think you have to wonder, how Drake May is going to handle a situation like this. This is different, and he's very young. So, Sam Darnold has been through some things and he does have that experience on his side. But I think if you're just looking at it on paper, which, it never is played out, on paper, this should be a drubbing, a pretty, substantial. It doesn't seem as close as some of the matchups that we've had in the last few years.
Sam's got a question in a second here, but I just want to ask your thoughts, first of all, on how close the MVP vote was for NFL honors with Drake May almost beating out Matthew Stafford, one of the closest votes ever. We were shocked. We were just talking about it in the last segment. Were you surprised it was that close?
A little bit. I think those two have been going back and forth, pretty much, all year. I thought it was interesting that the guy that voted for Justin Herbert, it was really the one that determined, who was going to be the MVP. But I think what in the end, what it is Matthew Stafford has been in the league for 17 years. This was probably one of the best, if not the best year that he did have. And I think that's what kind of pulled him a little bit, over the top, over Drake, man. It's kind of like if Stafford didn't get it this year, you wondered, he doesn't have too many years, left. So I do think that is probably what made him favored for that.
Yeah, a bit of a lifetime achievement award in some regards. Go ahead, Sam.
Robert, outside of the Super Bowl, a huge kind of point of discussion around the NFL the last week and a half at this point has been obviously the coaching cycle. 10 new head coaches hired, obviously none of them black, 21 new offensive coordinators hired, 2 of them are black. And then last night at the NFL Honors, we're watching, they're giving out the Assistant Coach of the Year, and it goes to Josh McDaniels, but finishing in second and third are Vance Joseph and Brian Flores. I'm curious, from your perspective, Robert, what is the state of the black man in the NFL right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, it gives a little, when you think about Brian Flores' lawsuit, feels like it gives it a little strength to it. I think what happens is it's a numbers game, and it's a bit of a nepotism game, but not nepotism so much as, a brother and father or things like that. It's the way these coaching trees, work, the way they trickle down with the assistant coaches and things like that is that the pool of black candidates isn't, as high. So when you're looking at basically, like you said, 1 out of 32 jobs, an owner, a lot of times he wants the next Sean McVay. He wants he wants the next Mike McDaniel or whatever that may be. And because you don't have a lot of black head coaches that don't have a lot of black assistants, we say, well, where's the next Mike Tomlin? Is there what young black assistant that you could feel like is a LaFleur or something like that? So what we have is we have these long-term black assistants like Flores and Vance Joseph, but they've kind of been through the cycle, before. And I think maybe the other thing is they don't get second chances as much as, say, someone like can be Stefanski, for example, who was not good at Cleveland for the last, couple of years. And a lot of people, boom, gets a new job immediately. John Harbaugh hasn't won a Super Bowl in a very long time and couldn't win one with, if not definitely one of the best quarterbacks, a great defense. Boom, he gets a job just like that. Where someone like Vance Joseph or Brian Flores, they don't, it's just not like that. And I think, I don't know exactly what you can do because there's a reason that, how you going to tell Jerry Jones or whoever it is, this is who you got to hire? They own billion-dollar teams. And you just, no matter what rules you put in place, they're going to hire who they want to hire.
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about gerrymandering in politics, not to make this a political discussion, but when you look at the way coaching trees now are formed and the guys getting the assistant jobs, it almost feels like it's gerrymandered for white coaches to continue getting the opportunities and black coaches just having to fight for the scraps that are left over and sometimes even being forced into jobs that are going to be failures. We've seen that numerous times where the black coach gets the job that is going to be a train wreck, and then they bomb out and they can't get another opportunity. We see it all the time.
Real quick,
Sam. Yeah. Well, look, I still feel like he's going to get an opportunity there with the Jets.
Sure, but he was given a horrible situation.
And I don't disagree with that at all.
You can even take the Patriots situation last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not the same team.
Robert Little's hanging out with us for one more segment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online, joins us every Friday here on the show, joining us from the Bay Area in a very deep hotel room chair.
That's why when you get that, that Hilton upgrade.
My God.
This is the upgrade. I got it.
What the hell kind of chair did they put you in?
They're like, we have a upgraded room for you. So I'm like, great. Maybe I get a bigger TV or something like that, bigger bed. Nope, I got 2 big old chairs.
See? Robert Little will be at the Super Bowl on Sunday, hanging out with us for a few minutes. Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, Robert, we've been talking about it in the green room, in the commercial break. You've been around this game of journalism for a very long time. You've seen a lot of different iterations and eras of everything. land-breaking news earlier this week. I think it was on Wednesday. It came down that the Washington Post is going through these massive cuts in cutting their sports department, essentially entirely adding it to part of their culture department. Kind of, what did you make of this news, and how do you feel kind of journalism is at as a collective right now?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised. I'll tell you guys a quick story from an editor that I was talking to about this. And I was saying, man, that's, really sad. These guys lost their jobs and everything. And he said, let me tell you something. He said, some of these, journalists, and they're very good journalists, they make, six figures, $200,000 a year. And, they write maybe 3 articles a week. And he said, something, we can get AI to write 100 articles a week and pay somebody $60,000 a year, $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year to just edit it and make sure that, it's all, factual and go over it and save us this. And it was scary, to me, and I said, well, AI can't, change the human voice or whatever and all that stuff. So you put in the right prompts, it can. And to me, it seems like we're in this era where if you're in sports specifically, it's more important that you're an influencer. It's more important that you can get engagement. It doesn't matter. Like, Colin Cowherd can come on and say, oh, no warm city teams have ever won the Super Bowl. And he didn't say that because he thought it was true. He said it because he was on with the Seahawks coach and he needed a good quote and he wanted it to go viral. And it's more important, at least in some of these back rooms, that you go viral for your hot take than you do anything of any intrinsic value. We see Shams, who to me is one of the most unproblematic people that I've ever met in media, getting slammed because of his Giannis reporting. But I'm sure that ESPN has trotted him out there every day as like, Giannis is a hot topic. Tell us something about Giannis. You got to say something about Giannis. What's going on with Giannis? He's just doing his job because that's what – he's not independent anymore. He works for the machine, the hot take machine, and he has to do that. So while I'm definitely sad because I grew up in a traditional journalistic type of environment when I was going to college and everything, but I learned very quickly in this business that you had to be a little bit, off what the tradition was if you wanted to survive. I couldn't survive just telling everybody what happened in the game. I had to figure out a different angle to come at it. And if that meant, being a little more salacious in my headlines or my tweets or my social media, to make sure I can, pay my mortgage, that's what I did. And I think some people are a little bit stubborn about the change, and they're finding out the hard way what happens when you don't go along with that change.
Yeah, I have a friend named Jill Manuel who worked in media for a long time, worked in newsrooms. She's been a program director in TV and things like that. And she has this great thing over on LinkedIn where she talks about the fact that influencers now, media, like journalism influencers, not, Kardashian influencer type thing, but like media influencers, people that have been journalists are having so much success now in the Substacks of the world and things like that, that more people are flocking to those places to get their news and even in some cases sports. And we're doing it on our end, even with SportsWrap shorts. I mean, that's a big part of what we're doing with our brand. That's where people are getting their stuff now.
Look, you're more likely to see Drewski on a sports show than some kid that went to Northwestern and got a 4.0 and is trying to make his way up through. You Kai Cien, I Show Speed. You see the NFL. They sent out a big press release about all of these quote unquote YouTubers that you can watch their channel, whatever, during the Super Bowl, right? Not watch, such and such journalist who scrapped up his money to come down to San Francisco and try. No, you can go watch because and ESPN just hired what I thought it was so sport-ish stuff that, they called it, it's not about sports. It's about what women talk about in sports. And the lady was explaining what she does. And she says, what I'm going to do is instead of talking about Matthew Stafford, I'm going to talk about how Matthew Stafford's wife handles the handles of playoff week and stuff. Like, first off, I've been doing stuff like that for the past 10 years. But anyway, that's ESPN and said, we care more about Matthew Stafford's wife and what she's talking about than we do about Matthew Stafford on the field. And to me, it's just a signal that if the big brands are doing this, they're going to cut, and they're going to keep cutting. And look where the money goes. Look who makes the most money: Stephen A. Smith, Colin Cowherd. They bring in people like Cam Newton. Think about what Dan Orlovsky went through, trying to be that, and how that made him feel. But if you want, Pat McAfee, the Barstool guys. None of those guys are traditional journalists.
Nope.
But they're the ones that are making tens of millions of dollars, and that should be a signal to everybody.
Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online, somebody with a great journalism background. I love getting your insights on this stuff. Enjoy the game on Sunday, my friend. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Our Super Bowl extravaganza continues. It ain't a Super Bowl extravaganza if this guy's not here. Scott Seidenberg, ladies and gentlemen. The man behind Better Day. Right? I got it. Because every time I have somebody on, I want to make sure I get their stuff right. He's also on VSIN. You could watch him there. Listen to him there. Believe Podcast Network carries the show. And he does a great job. A longtime friend of the program. All right. I don't want to waste any time because I only got 7 minutes. Give me, for a game that feels like, to me, a lock of locks on the Seahawks minus 4.5. But then I see, 70% of the money over on FanDuel is on the Seahawks. And I'm like, well, they didn't build casinos in Vegas on the casinos losing that bad. What am I missing here if I'm saying to everybody, take the Seahawks minus 4.5?
You're not missing anything.
Okay, good.
Jason, what
Goodbye,
you're
everybody.
missing, what you're missing is that people have to understand that the Super Bowl is the most efficient market you are going to find in an NFL season, or really in any sports season. This market has been shaped for the last 2 weeks. You're not going to find a line that's wrong. Because if the line was wrong, over the last 2 weeks, a professional bettor or a sharp bettor or someone with big money already hit that line that was wrong. So over the last 2 weeks, this line has been shaped from the time it opened up very briefly at Seahawks minus 3.5 to get to the point where it was Seahawks minus 4.5. Some books here in town posting up a 5 briefly, but for the most part, we're at a juiced minus 4.5. The fact that it hasn't moved off of that and it won't move off of that tells us, guess what? This line is right. The Seahawks should be 4.5-point favorites, because if it wasn't right, then everyone would be hitting it on whatever side was the incorrect side. Now, I will say this. I would not lay minus 4.5 with the Seahawks. If you want to take 4.5 with the Patriots, perfectly within your rights. I like that. You can go ahead and do that. That's fine. Why? Because 4 is a relatively key number in the NFL. Games land on 7, 3, the far two most key numbers in the NFL, even with the changing times with 2-point conversions and whatnot. And then the next key number is 4. But you know what's not a key number, Jason? 5. You know how many times a game lands on 5?
How many?
Very, very rarely.
I thought you were going to give me an exact number.
Well, I will. Since 2021, there's been over 1,400 NFL games that resulted in wins, right? So I don't count ties. But over 1,400 games in the NFL since 2021 when the season expanded and whatnot. Only 59 times has a game landed with a number of 5. There's been 59 Super Bowls. We had 1 Super Bowl land with the margin of 5. Instead of paying into a juiced market of laying minus 4.5 at minus 115 or minus 120 odds, go play an alternate spread of Seahawks minus 5.5.
Okay.
Because 6 is a key number. And then you get reduced VIG, maybe minus 102, minus 105, maybe even money depending on your book. There's no reason to pay extra VIG to lay minus 4.5 when you can play these alternate spreads, and 5.5 at reduced VIG, to me, is a better bet, because the likelihood that this game lands on 5 is extremely rare.
Yeah. You know what? That makes sense. I will take that under advisement. What are some of your favorite prop bets that you like? What do you think of the total? Is there something out there that you are like super recommending to your followers, to your listeners, to your viewers?
Well, the first prop bet I place every single Super Bowl for the past, it's probably been 7 years I've bet this, is shortest touchdown under 1.5 yards. This is something that a lot of people in the general betting public would just look at and be like, this doesn't make sense. Like, a 1 yard, you're threading the needle here with a 1 yard touchdown. Like, of course it's going to be longer than that. Well, you have to realize that we get goal line touchdowns, Jason, all the time. 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls have had a touchdown of under 1.5 yards. 8 of the last 10 Super Bowls have had a touchdown of under 1.5 yards. And the 2 years that we didn't, we had a 2-yard touchdown and a 3-yard touchdown. So we were very close to getting a 1-yard touchdown. Think of all the ways you can get down to the goal line. It doesn't just have to be a pass interference in the end zone that gives you the ball at the goal line. You could have a player dive for the pylon and get called short out of bounds. You could have a drive that starts inside the 5 or the 10-yard line that becomes 4-down territory, and they march down to the 1-yard line or so. Shortest touchdown under 1.5 yards. Again, it's cashed in 5 of the last 6 years, 8 of the last 10 years. It's the first prop that I bet on every single season. The next one, and this is one that another one that sharps always love and the public is like confused by. Will a team have 3 unanswered scores? Yes. You bet yes. This is something that happens way more frequently than people think happens. And it
so
doesn't
it's a missed number?
be,
so you're telling me it's a missed number then?
No, because it's vague. You're gonna have to lay the juice on it to bet the yes. But people automatically assume that, we're not going to have, it's a low total game. We're not going to have 3 unanswered scores. It doesn't have to be 3 touchdowns. You can get field goal, touchdown, field goal. You can get field goal, field goal, field goal. Think about how many games we have seen, especially in the Super Bowls, where teams give up or score 3 unanswered times. The Seahawks have literally played games this year where they have given up 3 unanswered scores and still won the game. So it could be a low-scoring game where the Seahawks still score or the Patriots score 3 unanswered times.
I got to go for the TV audience. If you want to see more of my conversation with Scott Seidenberg, head over to the YouTube channel, SportsWrap with Jason Page. Real quick, who wins? Give me a final score.
Seahawks 27-20, your MVP. Sam Seeing Ghosts Darnold.
Wow, you have it going over. Fascinating. I have it just going under. Scott Seidenberg, VSIN, Better Day. Check them out. Great sports betting content. Anything you want to check out in the sports betting realm, he is your guy. Always appreciate it, my friend.
And that's what they call a sports wrap.
Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Friday. Don't forget Sports Wrap weekends. Many of these same affiliates. If not, check your local listing for time and schedule. Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the podcast version of the show, available Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe today. 45 minutes. It works great as an audio companion while you're driving to work, on the treadmill, in the shower, laying in bed, wherever it may be. So make sure to subscribe to that. Also, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, the place to find all things Sports Wrap, the Monday through Friday TV version of the show, available there. 45 minutes, commercial free. Again, Monday through Friday, go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Sports Wrap shorts are available as well. These are great 1 to 3 minute long videos covering the top stories of the day. As news breaks, you'll want to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Also available on our TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, Sports Wrap Jason Page. And now for the final time in this NFL season, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. We've got a Super Bowl on Sunday, and that means the biggest betting day of the year around the country. I forget how much money they said, like $2.7 billion or something like that's going to be gambled on the Super Bowl this year. Make sure you're putting your money in the right place, and Sam Yarnell is going to help you do that today.
That's right. Make sure you find all of your promos, get all your boosts, make sure you're shopping around your books, finding the best lines, the best markets, all that stuff matters. And yes, Jason, we're breaking records on Super Bowl Sunday, so let's get a little piece of that money for you and I. I got bets aplenty in this game, so we'll go just kind of category by category here. We'll start with the touchdown scores. Here are my anytime touchdown scores. I'm on Sam Darnold to score an anytime touchdown. I think he runs one in this game. I like Kenneth Walker to score 2 touchdowns. I also put a little on Jackson Smith and Jigba to score 2 touchdowns as well. I think there's going to be somebody on Seattle that scores 2. Give me a chance that it's either one of those 2 guys. I also played George Halani, the backup running back who we talked to Jem Mueller about, to score the first touchdown. I think that there's a realistic chance they use a lot of Ken Walker on that opening drive. Give it to Halani when they get down around the goal line to walk it in. From there, I have just a couple of what people would consider normal reception receiving yards props I'm playing in this game. One of those is Kenneth Walker, 15 plus first quarter rushing yards. I think the Seahawks come out and run this ball a lot to start this Super Bowl. They want to be conservative with it early. Give me Ken Walker over 15 first quarter rushing yards. Other regular props that I'm playing in this game, Jason, you got to go down the board. The book caps these props for the main guys really well when we're this deep into the season, let alone the playoffs. So I went down the board and I landed on Kyle Williams. I'm on Kyle Williams short number, 1 reception. I'm getting it at plus 180. I'll play that. He's only got to make 1 catch. And I'm also going to play Kyle Williams for 20 plus yards at 6-1. These are 2 bets that he could get through on 1 play alone. Kyle Williams for 1 reception at plus 180, 20 plus yards at plus 600. Make sure you're shopping around. The rest of the things that I bet in this game are some weird bets. I think that those are the markets that you can really attack when it comes to Super Bowls because they're paying so much attention to the receiving yards, the who's going to score a touchdown. They open up all these markets. Let's attack them where they're opening themselves to be attacked. One of the places, my favorite bet maybe in this entire Super Bowl, Jason, no punt to result in a touchback. You have to lay a lot of juice, minus 150, but I am laying it, no punt to result in a touchback. These 2 punters have combined for 1 touchback all season and playoffs long combined. So I'm going to bet the no on any punt to result in a touchback at minus 150. I like the coin toss to land tails. I know that's funny to say. I do think it lands tails. I am only betting that at books where the coin toss is even money. If you have to lay minus whatever on the coin toss, there's no point in betting it. You're joking with yourself. I found a book that's offering both sides at even money. I took tails. Only bet the coin toss if you're finding both sides at even money. If you're laying a minus on the coin toss, you're losing implied value. Weird bets that I have that are going into this game. Either team to be shut out, I played at 66-1. Any field goal attempt to be blocked in the game, I played at 12-1. There to be a pick 6 in the game, I played at 6-1. I also played 1 interception in every quarter of this game at 50-1. There are a bunch of weird specials, plenty of things I recommend. A prop that plenty of people love to bet year in and year out. How many players will attempt a pass? I'm on the over 2.5. You can get plus money at most shops.
Like
My last one, Jason, red or pink Gatorade. Give me the 12-1 on the Gatorade color.
Wow. I am a simple man, so I don't have as many crazy bets as you, at least not today. Although check in with me before the game on Sunday. I'm sure I'll have some more crazy stuff that I add to my card. Obviously, I like the Seattle Seahawks minus 4.5. I like the under in the game as well, 45.5. And I like both teams to convert a 4th down, which I think is like plus 230. I think it's like plus 230 for both teams to convert a 4th down in the game. Those are my like favorite ones. Scott Seidenberg gave a bunch of his as well. All of this will be available on the YouTube channel, SportsWrap with Jason Page. All the betting stuff will be up on the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. So check that out throughout the weekend as well. And that's it. It's going to do it for us on this Friday edition of the show. Enjoy the big game on Sunday. Sam, enjoy the game as well. We'll catch you all back here on Monday. Thank you to Robert Littal for stopping by. Thank you to Scott Seidenberg with Better Day and VSIN as well. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. Again, Super Bowl Sunday. It's finally here. Enjoy the game. We'll see you back here on Monday. Bye-bye. Hi there, I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got SportsWrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half of as they're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.